Side of High Performer Lifestyle, or you might be watching the replay on YouTube. I am so happy to be here with you today and to share with you something that I've done over and over in my life to create a transformation. And I don't just mean little changes, right? I mean big changes. If you've been following me long enough, you know that I was once an overweight, out of shape smoker, and now I'm a pro athlete. You know that I was, I grew up with a single teenage mom, broke, didn't have any really financial resources, struggled, lived below poverty level, public housing, all of that, and created the transformation in my life that I have now. I've talked about manifesting my husband in 2 days. You know that I've gone from an employee to an entrepreneur with no training, no models of it in my life. And it just goes on and on. The list goes on and on. I know how to rewrite a chapter in my life, and I'm going to teach you how to do it. Not only rewrite a chapter in your life, but like rewrite your story, right? And so what do I mean by that? I mean like there's a time in your life where you are in a story about what is possible for you or what is not, right? You're looking around at your reality, and your reality may be something that is not really what you desire, but instead of creating a new reality for yourself, rewriting your future, rewriting your story, rewriting or just writing the next chapter of your life, instead of doing that, oftentimes you get stuck in, this is the reality of my life. And what I'm here to tell you is that does not have to be the reality forever. And it doesn't even have to be the reality in the moment when you start to think in the way that I'm going to share with you right now. So as you come on, please let me know that you're here. Say hi so I can say hi to you. Hi, Isidro. Hi, Maya. Hi, Emma. And ask questions. If you have questions about what I'm talking about, or there's something that's on your heart, drop it in the comments so that I can reply to you in the best way that I can. So I can remember, a time in my life, I mean, many times, but let me just give you one example. I can remember looking at pictures of myself, back when you had to go and get your film developed. I can remember seeing pictures of myself, and there's a specific picture that I have in my mind where I am sitting with my mother, my aunts, and some other friends of ours. And I was 25, so 25, 26. And I remember looking at myself and having horrible skin, being bloated, being overweight, just looking not happy. I mean, I was living a very, very unhealthy lifestyle. And I just remember looking at myself and thinking, God, is this going to be the way that I live my life? Right? Is this what I'm destined to be? Is this how I'm destined to look? And it didn't feel right to me. It didn't feel like who I really was on the inside. Have you ever had that feeling where it's like you look at maybe the results in your life, or you look at a picture of yourself, and you're like, this doesn't feel like me. Like, I know there's something else inside of me. I know I'm meant for more. I know I'm supposed to be something different. Well, that's how I was feeling in that moment when I looked at that picture. And that's when I first started tapping into the realization that, well, I don't have to have this be my reality, right? Like, I don't have to, right? I don't have to continue down this path. I don't have to end up with type 2 diabetes like my grandparents. I don't have to, be a smoker for the rest of my life like my mother is, right? And like everybody else around me. It connected with me when I looked at that picture, and I thought, well, there are other people my age and older, especially older, who look vibrant, who look healthy, who look 10 times better than I do. And so there's something that they're doing, there's other choices that they're making that perhaps I just haven't tapped into yet, right? And so I realized in that moment, I don't have to get progressively worse, right? I could just start picturing a new reality for myself. Yeah, maybe it will be difficult. Maybe I won't have support. Maybe I'll have to do it alone. Maybe it will be hard. Maybe it will take longer than I want it to take. Maybe I'll feel like giving up along the way. But just maybe I can also do this. Maybe I can actually rewrite what my life looks like now, right? And I can rewrite what it will look like. And that's what I started to do. I started to want it. I started to desire looking a different way, feeling a different way. I started to picture myself 10 years, 12 years down the road, looking and feeling vibrant and healthy, right? And I started to believe for it, right? I wanted it, I believed for it, and then I just began. I start to tell myself, well, if I'm going to write a new chapter, if I'm going to rewrite my story, it's like writing a book. You got to start with the first page, right? And so I started to apply that in all areas of my life. Fast forward a couple of years, and I was sitting at a desk in an office of a job that I hated. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. Right. And I remember looking around and seeing other people 10 years older than me who were there and who also hated it and had been hating it for the past 10 years. And I said to myself, this doesn't have to be my reality. It could be right now, or it is right now. But what if I start to craft in my mind first where it's possible that I could go? What if I start playing around with the belief that I can do something different? What if I start to make choices right now, little ones, that the Jessica who is 10 years from now, or 5 years from now, or even 1 year from now, if you can't take your mind that far, what if I started making decisions right now that person would make, that person who's already created the change that she wants? So as I sat in that office, I said to myself, okay, I've started to rewrite my future with my health. And now I can start to rewrite it with my career, with my day-to-day life. I don't have to accept this. And listen, that's a big decision. That's a big choice. It takes courage, because when the majority of people around you, and in my situation, I didn't grow up around entrepreneurs or big thinkers or dreamers, right? Like when you're growing up with a single mom who's just trying to get by, the reality is you hear that it's hard. You hear that money is hard to come by. You hear that there's only opportunities for certain types of people, not you. So when you challenge yourself to think differently, to rewrite what is possible for you, you're going up against all kinds of old limiting beliefs and feelings and stereotypes and all kinds of things. So it takes courage. But what happens is when you just plant the seed in your mind, begin to plant the seed in your mind that it is possible for you to have a different reality. It begins there, right? The desire for it. As I sat in that office, I said to myself, I don't want to be like these other women. Nothing wrong with them, except for the fact that they were miserable. And they were miserable 10 years ago when they decided to just put their head down, stay with it, hopefully get their 1% or 2% raise, but they weren't happy. They weren't doing what they were meant to do. Guess what? They weren't using their greatest gifts. They were just buying into the belief that this is as good as it gets. Not only were they unhappy, but when you're unhappy because you're not doing what you really want to do, or you haven't even explored what you really want to do, and you're just doing something to get by, listen, there's a time and a place for that. but these were people who had other opportunities and chances if they wanted, if they could believe for it, right? What happens is when you shove that down, not only do you rob yourself of joy and true happiness, and fire for waking up every day, your health starts to suffer. So I was looking at these women progressively getting more unhealthy, more overweight. I thought about myself, a year or two back when I saw that picture of myself already, I wasn't looking like the other vibrant girls at 25, 26, girls that I'd seen on campus and stuff like that when I was in college running around with belly shirts. Like, I didn't have that vibrancy, right? I was living a different lifestyle. And I started to connect the dots like, okay, if I continue like that, and I continue in this kind of job that I don't love, or not even that I don't love, but that like just isn't me. Like, I'm just doing it to make a little paycheck. And there was all this stuff bubbling up underneath me that I wanted to do, but I was too afraid to do because I was buying into what society was saying. Get a good job, put your head down, be grateful that you have this. What happens is when people talk to you like that, they start to squash that spark you have inside. That spark you have inside. And you know what I'm talking about. There's a reason you're in this group called High Performer Lifestyle, because you know that average is just not good enough for you, because you know that there is a spark in you. Other people see it and you've experienced it. You have a desire. But here's the thing, if you're still stuck in your reality and you haven't started to use your mind to start to create another reality, then you're not actually taking actions that are moving you closer to what you desire. You're only taking actions that keep you in the hamster wheel, right? And so you've got to start with believing that it's possible for you, and then beginning to take the steps that are aligned with the belief, the desire that you want, not with your reality. Right. So when I think about, when I think about the decision that I made to leave my job, you guys have heard me tell the story where my mother died suddenly she had just turned 45 a month before, died suddenly in a car accident. It was like the God giving me another sign that, yes, that's how quickly it can be over. And so if you keep on, staying in your reality with just these feelings that you want to do something more, but you don't do anything about it, then this can quickly be what happens to you too, right? And there's a lot of people who are still living, but are really dead inside. And so once I got that I could rewrite my future, that I could create another chapter. And so here's how it looks. One chapter, like my whole journey into personal development and leadership and growth and entrepreneurship and all of that, it started simply with me having the desire to rewrite one chapter of my life, which just happened to be fitness, health. Wasn't even fitness. I wasn't even thinking about getting fit. I was literally just focused on not smoking cigarettes, not eating a bunch of fast food, not staying up late at night, drinking a lot of, alcohol, and all of these things that were deadening me. It just began with one chapter. And as I started to make changes to my health, and I started to exercise, and I started to just one little thing at a time be consistent, that's all it took. Then guess what? I started to desire changes in other chapters of my life because I started to feel better. Even just putting the focus every day on making a choice that was making me feel better, that just put me in a whole other vibe, right? It put me in a whole other way of thinking. And automatically had me make better choices, not just with food and exercise. It had me make better choices with like the people I spend time around. When I decided to quit smoking cigarettes, I hung out less as much as I could with people who were smoking and going out and partying and all of that, because at the time it was too much temptation. And then eventually it just became, ugh, I don't want to be around that. So just the little desire to make a little change in my health and fitness, or my health at the time, like I said, fitness wasn't even a thought. Just that little desire birthed the belief in me, because I started to feel and see the results, that I could do the same thing with other areas of my life that were even bigger and scarier. Do you get that? Because once I started seeing the evidence and creating the evidence that I was rewriting what my future was going to look like in terms of health and ultimately fitness, you're seeing it now. I never would have imagined that I would become, this fit person, that I would, open up gyms, and that I would be a renowned trainer, and then that I would go on to be a professional bodybuilding athlete. That was like so far from my realm of possibility. But I started with where I was, with the desire to just rewrite and recreate and take ownership of that part of my life, not just kind of go through the emotions and let whatever happen, happen. Just from that decision and that commitment to the little things every day, I started to get sparks of what was possible in other areas of my life. And that's how I had the courage to rewrite the chapter of my life that had to do with my career, to leave being an employee and pursue this desire I had to be an entrepreneur. Listen, I always had all the makings of an entrepreneur. If you are a risk taker, if you are a visionary, if you are somebody who is self-motivated, likes to go out and get things done and create things, you are an entrepreneur. You have that drive in you, and you cannot quelch it. Like, that's what I was doing. So I was conforming to this employee. I was conforming to fitting into this box of God didn't make me to be that way. Right. And what happens is, when you ignore what your gifts are, your superpowers, you start to self-destruct. It's very easy to self-destruct. That's what was happening to me. But that little spark of what I started to experience with my health and those changes, I took that and started to rewrite the other chapters of my life. And it began with going out and pursuing being an entrepreneur. No experience with it, no training with it. Nobody in my family had been an entrepreneur, right? Nobody was supporting that decision of mine. That's the other thing. You've got to be comfortable going out on your own, not needing the permission of everybody else, not needing everybody's approval. Because guess what? When you're a visionary, when you are entrepreneurial minded, you are going to see it before everybody else does. So in the beginning, they will doubt you. They won't understand it. Guess what happens? It's your evidence that proves it. And then they are all behind you and they want to know how you did it, right? So you can't let the fact that you don't have people in your corner. You got to go out and find those people. That's what I started to do. So I went on my entrepreneur journey, and guess what? I then started rewriting the chapters of my life that had to do with personal relationships. Once you start creating next level results in different areas of your life, different chapters, fitness, career, then you start desiring that for other areas of your life. So I started changing my personal relationships, right? I started desiring and expecting more, a higher caliber. I wanted to be aligned with other people who were pursuing, their dreams, their visions, other driven people who were healthy, who cared about personal development, who had something to aspire to. So I started rewriting those chapters of my life. And then that turned into rewriting my relationship chapters in my life. And then it just keeps going from there. Before you know it, you have rewritten your whole story. You've rewritten your future. I'm here now, when I look back at all the chapters that I had to intentionally decide I'm going to write, I'm not going to have it be written for me. Those are the things that have given me my book of life, my rewritten story, because it could have been different. My story could have been like so many other people that I grew up with, and that I see in my own, have seen in my own family. It could be, here was Jessica with all this potential, all of these dreams and desires inside of her, but she ignored them. She was afraid to take risks. And so she just kind of followed that path of everyone else around her. Here she is now 50 pounds overweight, poor lifestyle. She's in a job, she's making decent money. She's not happy. She's one relationship after the other. She's just kind of going through the motions, waiting to die, basically. I know that sounds dramatic, but let me tell you something. That's not even as realistic as what I've actually seen happen to the people I've been closest to who didn't choose to intentionally rewrite their story and instead just went along with it. Yes, a new history, George. I call it rewriting the mindset DNA for your future, the mindset DNA of your offspring, of your family, of your legacy, right? Like, so much of what's in us comes from like our ancestors, right? And so at some point you have to decide, am I going to be the one to rewrite my story? And therefore the story of what's possible for those who come behind me. So my question to you today is there an area of your life, a chapter that you could rewrite? And are you committed to doing that? Are you committed to rewriting a chapter of your life that will then become one of many chapters you rewrite, which will then become your new story, your new life, that you get to look back on and say, wow, look at all of those intentional moments that have led up to what I have now and who I am. That's how you lead, right? Those of you in here who have clients, who have customers, who have a tribe that are looking up to you, that's how you lead. You lead through example, right? Through those choices that you make in every single moment to either go this way or that way. So listen, what I want to ask you guys to do, if you haven't done it, is inside the group, there is a announcement, and it's just a quick little, I think 2 little questions. It's a poll. It has to do with something that I am bringing to my community, you as well. If it's something that you feel aligned with, it's, trust me, something that has the potential to really change your life like it has mine. So go ahead, read that announcement, make your selection. Many of you have already are participating in it. And this is something that I'm excited to bring to you this summer. Okay, so go ahead and do that for me. By the way, share in the comments what chapter of your life you're committed to rewriting, and when will you start, and what will you do? Bye, guys.